This video is about Eleanor of Aquitaine, and she was incredible. Basically, if you think of her as the merger of Olivia Pope from Scandal and Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones, you pretty much got who she is. She was smart, she was strong, she was devious, she was scandalous, but she got stuff done. This is her telling you a little bit about herself. She was a queen and crusader, all of these things, but they were all kind of a problem. It was a problem that she was a risk taker because Eleanor was a woman. And hold on, let me just fix her so she looks right. There we go. Now she's got her dress on. She was a woman in a time when it was hard for women, but Eleanor was super lucky. She was the eldest of 3 children who were born to William, the Duke of Normandy, and Eleanor Chaton. They were both super rich and super powerful, and Eleanor benefited from that. She stood to inherit both of their fortunes. Her father made sure that she got the best education, not just for a woman in the time, but also for a man in the time. She basically had the best teachers in all the subjects that she needed. She had an incredibly wide and varied base of knowledge. This was because, like I said, all that money she was going to inherit made her the most eligible heiress in all of Europe. She was the one to get with, and because of this, she had a lot of suitors vying for her. She was part of an arranged marriage to Louis VI, who later became King Louis VI of France. Even though it was an arranged marriage, at first it was okay. They bonded over their love of the church, which was odd for both of them. Kings in France usually weren't super involved in the church. They didn't know a lot about it because they usually had advisors. And Eleanor, who's a woman, most women couldn't read, and so it was incredible that she was so knowledgeable. She basically read the Bible cover to cover by the age of 13 and was very smart and had a lot of opinions about the church and the Bible. And even though they both loved the church, pretty soon after they got married, a huge conflict happened between King Louis and Pope Innocent II. There were many reasons for this conflict, but basically it started because the king, he wanted one person to be archbishop, and the Pope wanted somebody different, and they couldn't agree. And so their solution was to go to war, and so a war lasted 2 years, and Eleanor was sort of caught in the middle. She didn't come out and publicly endorse either of them, but she wanted to be loyal to her husband and to the kingdom, but she wanted what was best for the church. So she kind of tried to make peace between the two of them for the whole length of a 2-year war, but it never really happened. And eventually it was resolved because the Pope stopped being Pope and a new Pope came to power. And it was over, but Eleanor sort of kept bugging Louis about it. She made him feel the weight of what he had done, and he basically felt so guilty and wanted to atone for what he had done that he took Eleanor with him on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, to the Middle East, where Crusade number 1 was happening. France wasn't super involved in the First Crusade. It was mostly England. But when they got there, not only were they impacted by what they saw of the Holy Land and all the sights that they saw, but they were also really impacted by the Crusades. Eleanor especially, she really thought that the work that was being done with the Crusades was for the glory of God and was going to further the church in places where God had not reached yet. So she actually physically led people into battle. She took up a sword and she began to fight. She carried the cross into battle with her as her symbol on her shield and had an army that she led, and led very successfully. Her troops did incredible things and really good work while they were there. And like I said, you can consider the Crusades to be kind of a low point in Christianity, but Eleanor was really in it for the right reasons. She believed that what she was doing was right, and that she was spreading Christianity and God's love to people. Unfortunately, the Crusades were kind of the only way that she could do that. If she had been in a time where there was another way for her to get the word out, she would have, but she was born when the Crusades were happening, so that's what she did. She dressed like an Amazon woman when she went into battle, which kind of means that she had her hair up and she just kind of looked big and strong and not like a typical French lady looked. Understandably, King Louis was not happy, and it caused a major rift in their marriage. And it got so bad that Eleanor actually filed for an annulment, which was a huge scandal. In the Catholic Church, you're not really even supposed to get divorced. let alone get an annulment after the marriage has been consummated. And it was clearly consummated because Louis and Eleanor already had a daughter together. The Pope, rightly, he felt, did not give them an annulment. In fact, he plotted to keep them together and to have them reconcile. He made a plan where he told them that they had to lay in the same bed together while people watched. And the plan worked kind of well because it resulted in Eleanor getting pregnant. But it didn't reconcile their marriage because the baby, when it was born, turned out to be a baby girl. And so this meant that Eleanor and Louis had no male heir yet, so there was really no reason for them to stay together. They had 2 daughters, and eventually a marriage annulment came to be, and Eleanor was really happy about that. And later, super quickly, she met another guy. This is Henry. She met him on a trip to Paris. She fled to Paris to kind of avoid the shame of being in an annulled marriage, and met Henry there, and they fell super deeply in love, and they actually got married, and this was more scandalous. They got married 18 weeks after the annulment, which was scandalous. There was an age difference that was pretty significant. Eleanor was 30 and Henry was only 18, which was pretty scandalous. And they were third cousins, which was pretty scandalous. And to top it all off, Henry was originally engaged to Eleanor's oldest daughter. So, while many people thought that their marriage was kind of doomed, they were, like I said, in love, and they were very well matched in ambition and drive, and their goals were pretty much the same. And so they actually ruled together pretty successfully for a long time. They had, like I said, a really successful marriage that ended up lasting 40 years, and they had 8 kids, 5 little boys, 4 little girls. Her sons and daughters ended up in pretty prominent positions. Eleanor felt that it was her job as someone in power to not rule for her husband, but to let him do his thing. But she wanted to make sure that the people who ended up in power were the right people. And so she kind of pushed her sons and daughters into the roles she felt fit them. Again, because she wanted Christian rulers. She wanted people that valued the same things that she valued. She was basically super Eleanor. She had questionable methods and caused scandal at times. But she did what she thought was right, and she did what she thought was best for the kingdom of God. Even if that meant breaking not only gender barriers, but actual laws. She was imprisoned many times for things that she said and did. All of them were things kind of where she was calling out rulers and calling out kings and even her own children for doing things that weren't right and weren't godly. So she was pretty incredible. I think that they should totally make an HBO series about her. I would watch it. And that is Eleanor of Aquitaine.